Swati Devi Gauravanya Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadushtarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Syadvaita Garadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Dai Mahat Prema Paravi Bhunyarmaya Kshayate Adamusha Purusha Bhungte Ganan Sudasha Sadasadmaka Ilang Krishista Bhagavan Vachamsi Me. Hare Krishna. So today we will read next chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is cleansing of the Gundicha temple as ordered by Archita Prabhu and with the blessings of all the Vaishnavas. This is we do as a preparation for upcoming Ratha Yatra festival. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna. So chapter 12 of Madhya Lila, cleansing of the Gundicha temple. In his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur summarizes this chapter as follows. The king of Orissa, Maharaj Prataparudra, tried his best to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Nityananda Prabhu and the other devotees informed the Lord about the king's desire, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not agree to see him. At that time, Sri Nityananda Prabhu devised a plan, and he sent a piece of the Lord's outward garment to the king. The next day, when Ramananda Rai again entreated Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to see the king, the Lord, denying the request, asked Ramananda Rai to bring the king's son before him. The prince visited the Lord dressed like a Vaishnava, and this awakened remembrance of Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the son of Maharaj Prataparudra. After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed the Gundicha temple before the Ratha Yatra took place. He then took his bath at Indradyumna lake and partook of prasadam in the garden nearby. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed the temple of Gundicha, a Gaudiya Vaishnava washed the lotus feet of the Lord and drank the water. This incident is very significant, for it awoke within the devotee ecstatic love. Then the son of Advaita Prabhu named Gopal fainted during kirtan, and when he did not come to his senses, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu favored him by awakening him. There was also some humorous talk between Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu during prasadam. Advaita Prabhu said that Nityananda Prabhu was unknown to anyone and that it was not the duty of a householder brahmana to accept dinner with a person unknown in society. In answer to this humorous statement, Sri Nityananda Prabhu replied that Advaita Acharya was a monist and that one could not know how his mind could be turned by eating with such an impersonalist. The conversation of these two Prabhus, Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu, carried a deep meaning that only an intelligent man can understand. After all the Vaishnavas finished their luncheon, Saurabh Damodar and others took their prasadam within the room. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took great pleasure when he saw the Jagannath deity after the period of the deity's retirement. At that time, Lord Chaitanya was accompanied by all the devotees, and all of them were very pleased. Shri Gundicha Mandiram Atma Brindai Samarjayam Kshalanata Sagaura Svachita Chitalam Ujvalam cha Krishna pavesha paikam chakaram. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the Gundicha temple with his devotees and associates. In this way, he made it as cool and bright as his own heart, and thus he made the temple a befitting place for Lord Krishna to sit. Jaya Jaya Gaura Chandra Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Gaura Chandra, all glories to Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of the Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Jaya Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktagan, Shakti Deha Karyena Chaitanya Varanan. All glories to the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, headed by Shivastakur. I beg their power so that I can properly describe Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purvedakshin hoite Prabhu yabe aila tandri milite gajapati utkantita haila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned from his South Indian tour, Maharaj Prataparudra, the king of Orissa, became very anxious to meet him. Kata kaite patridila sarvamadhani brabhuragya hayya yadi dekhibaryaye. The king sent a letter from his capital, Katak, to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, entreating him to obtain the Lord's permission so that he could go and see him. Bhattacharya likhila brabhuragyana haila punarapi rajatanre patre pataila. Replying to the king's letter, the Bhattacharya wrote that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not given his permission. After this, the king wrote him another letter. Prabhur nikate ache yatta bhaktagan moralagetan sabare kariha nivedan. In this letter, the king requested Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, please appeal to all the devotees associated with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and submit this petition to them on my behalf. Say sabha dayalu more hana sadaya moralagi prabhu pade koribe binaya. If all the devotees associated with the Lord are favorably disposed toward me, they can submit my petition at the lotus feet of the Lord. Tan sabara prasade mile shibara burapaya prabhu kripa vinamora rajja nahi bhaya. By the mercy of all the devotees, one can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Without his mercy, my kingdom does not appeal to me. Yadimore kripana karibe gora hari rajya chadi yogi hai bhikhari. If Gaura Hari, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, will not show mercy to me, I shall give up my kingdom, become a mendicant, and beg from door to door. Bhattacharya patri dekhi chintita hana bhaktagana pasad gela say patri lana. When the Bhattacharya received this letter, he became very anxious. He then took the letter and went to the devotees of the Lord. Sabare miliya kahil raja vivaran piche say patri sabare karail darshan. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya met with all the devotees and described the king's wishes. Then he presented the letter to all of them for inspection. Patri dekhi sabarmane haila vismaya prabhupade gajapatir eta bhakti haya. Upon reading the letter, everyone was astonished to see that King Prataparudra had so much devotion for the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sabe kahe prabhu tanre kabu na milibe ami sabha kahe adi dukkha se manibe. The devotees gave their opinion and said the Lord will never meet the king. And if we requested him to do so, the Lord would surely feel very unhappy. Sarvabhauma kahe sabha chala ekabar milite na kahi paraja vyavahara. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then said, we shall go once again to the Lord, but we shall not request him to meet the king. Rather, we should simply describe the good behavior of the king. Etabale sabegela mahabrabhurstane kahite unmukha sabe na kahe vachane. Having thus reached a decision, they all went to the place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There, although ready to speak, they could not even utter a word. Prabhu kahe, ki kahite, sabaragamana, dekhiye kahite chaha, na kaha ki karana. After they arrived at Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's place, the Lord, seeing them, said, "What have you all come here to say? I see that you want to say something, but you do not speak. What is the reason?" Nityananda kahe, tomai chahi nivedite, na kahile rahite nari, kahite bhayachite. Nityananda Prabhu then said, "We want to tell you something. Although we cannot stay without speaking, we are still very much afraid to speak." Yogya yogya tomaya sabachahi nivedite, tomanami lile raja, chahe yogi hoite. We want to submit before you something that may or may not be befitting. The matter is this: unless he sees you, the king of Orissa will become a mendicant. Kahe mudra lai mune, hai babikare, raja boganahi chite, vina gaura hari. Nityananda Prabhu continued, the king has decided to become a mendicant and accept the sign of a mendicant by wearing an ivory earring. He does not want to enjoy his kingdom without seeing the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In India, there is still a class of professional mendicants who are very much like the gypsies of Western countries. They know some magical art and mystical processes, and their business is to beg from door to door, sometimes pleading and sometimes threatening. Such mendicants are sometimes called yogis and sometimes Kanapata yogis. The word Kanapata refers to one who has put a hole in his ear to wear an earring made of ivory. Maharaj Prataparudra was so depressed by not getting to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he decided to become such a yogi. Ordinary men think that a yogi must have an ivory earring in his ear, but this is not the sign of a real yogi. Maharaj Prataparudra also thought that to become a mendicant yogi, one must wear such an earring. Dekhiba se mukha chandra nayana bhariya, dariba se padapadma, hridaye tuliya. Nityananda Prabhu continued, the king also expressed his desire to see the moon-like face of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his eyes' full satisfaction. He would like to raise the lotus feet of the Lord to his heart. Yadyapi shuniya prabhur kamala hayaman tadhapi bahiri kahe nisturavachan. Hearing all these statements, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind was certainly softened, but externally he wished to speak some harsh words. Tama sabar icha ei hamare lana rajake milana ihan katakete giya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I can understand that you all desire to take me to Katak to see the king. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is naturally the reservoir of all kindness, and as soon as he heard the statement made by the king, his heart immediately softened. Thus the Lord was ready to go see the king even at Katak. He didn't even consider allowing the king to come from Katak to Jagannath Puri to see him. It is significant that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so kind that he was ready to go see the king at Katak. Apparently, it was never expected that the king wanted to see the Lord at his place. But by way of being externally harsh, the Lord indicated that if all the devotees so desired, he would go to Katak to see the king. So this is a very interesting description, which is carried over from the previous chapter, how much Maharaj Prataparudra had to struggle to see Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in here it is described how determined the king was and how great devotee he was, that unless he would get the darshan of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was ready to give up his kingdom and become a mendicant. And so, one important point is that it is happening in Jagannath Puri, the place of Lord Jagannath, and Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj wrote a book which was entitled An Embankment of Separation, describing the mood of Jagannath Puri. And it is very interesting to see how the interaction with Lord Jagannath is happening in Jagannath Puri. For example, we may perceive certain things from external viewpoint. For example, we might go to Jagannath Puri and be very upset about the fact that they still, so many 100 years later, they still have a sign on the temple wall at the temple entrance, Hindus only. So not allowing ISKCON devotees from non-Hindu background to enter into the temple. Prabhupada was also not very happy with that. He said, they don't allow my disciples to enter, so I will not enter also. And sometimes devotees were so upset with the fact that they tried to force themselves into the temple, and of course that created a lot of uproar and even clashes with the local guards and pandits. But if we look at it from Krishna conscious point of view, we can also understand that not even a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. And this is very important for us to see how the great devotees such as Haridas Thakur and Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, who externally, being Indians, they looked exactly like Hindus, and at the entrance of the temple, nobody is asking, the whatever documents confirming whether you're Hindu or not. So they just see if you're brown enough, you can enter. But nevertheless, neither Haridas Thakur nor Rupa and Sanatana Goswami ever tried, what to speak of entering the temple. We can see that they didn't even want to come close, near the entrance, as Sanatana Goswami was explaining, that if I go too close by the temple entrance, I might touch some of the servants of Lord Jagannath, and because I am low class, I may contaminate them, and I may commit an offense towards Lord Jagannath. So we can see that the greatest devotees are the ones who display the greatest level of humility. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu indicated, Trinadapi Sunichana Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Madanana Kirtanya Sadahari, that to be more tolerant than a tree, to be lower than a blade of grass, always showing all respect to others and not expecting any respect for oneself. These are the prerequisites for constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord. And these great associates of the Lord, they displayed those symptoms. But we may also ask if everything is in Lord Jagannath's will, if everything is happening according to Lord Jagannath's desire, then why wouldn't he encourage these people to remove the sign and let everyone freely enter the temple? And the answer is very simple, that it's Lord Jagannath's pastime. Because this is the mood of Jagannath Puri, the mood of separation from the Lord. And as we know, separation makes the heart grow fonder. And so Lord Jagannath likes to hide from his devotees in this way. And devotees actually develop great aspiration to see him. And we know for ourselves that if we can get something very easily, when we don't value that achievement, right? But if we really have to struggle for something, then we really appreciate that. And so, in the same light, why we are talking about it, because we may also ask, okay, externally, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for the sake of preaching, for the sake of influencing the higher levels of society and reaching out to greater audience, he chose to take sannyas in Mayavad Sampradaya, because Mayavadis, even today, are considered to be the most authoritative representatives of Vedic culture, right? I've been to Ratha Yatra, and I've seen that before the cars start moving, the most influential, the most respected members of society, they come up to the cart to receive Lord Jagannath's and Baladev's and Subhadra's blessing. And who is going on the cart first? Who is representing Brahmanas? Mayavadi sannyasis. And in Jagannath Puri, they actually have the one of the four key headquarters established by Adi Shankaracharya, which is called Govardhan Math. Anyone who's been to Puri would see that. And only after the Mayavadi sannyasis go up the cart, only then the king goes up the cart. We can understand that even now this is the case, what to speak of more than 500 years ago when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was preaching. So for the sake of effective preaching, he took sannyas from Mayavadi Sampradaya. And then he was right in the middle of them, and he was preaching to all of them and converting them very effectively, which in effect, helped to spread Krishna consciousness very quickly, converting such people as Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Prakashananda Saraswati, etc. And we may attribute the kind of, very rigid and strict sannyas behavior to the fact that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in that position. And as we know, Mayavadi sannyasis, they tend to be extremely renounced, right? And strict in their conduct, no exceptions to the rules, and being very proud of this. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not in that category. He knew that the king is a great devotee, and he actually wanted to meet the king. But we can see that he is very resistant, and he makes his devotees to beg on king's behalf, because they all know that how great the king is, and as well as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But this pastime is going on that regardless of that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is still resisting. Of course, one aspect, external aspect, is that he's setting an example. But the internal aspect is that he is increasing king's devotion towards himself in this way by placing obstacles on the path of their meeting. because this is Jagannath Puri. This is the embankment of separation. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also in that particular mood in this place. And we can see that king is displaying a real devotional character, that he is not interested in anything, neither in wealth associated with his position, nor in fame, nor in power. And he only perceives all this as his service to the Lord. And then he says, if I cannot see the Lord, means the Lord is not favorable towards me. It means he's not accepting my service, and so I might rather give it up. Why should I carry on in this way? I'm not interested in this position. And it's not that he is blackmailing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It may appear like that, qualified king, and he wants to leave his position. He's actually sincere. He's sincerely feeling that if I cannot do my duties as a king in the service of the Lord, if Lord is not giving me my darshan, so I just leave it. I just give it up. And this is King Prataparudra, and we are very fortunate because in Jagannath Puri, apparently King Prataparudra was based in Cuttack, but his present descendant, direct descendant, is living in Bhubaneswar, which is the capital of Orissa now. So he has his home in Bhubaneswar, and he has his palace in Jagannath Puri. So I was fortunate enough to meet King Divya Simha, that's his name, of course referring to Lord Nrsingadev, as Lord Nrsingadev's temple is very close to Gundicha temple. And so this is the entrance to his home, lions indicating royal power and connected to his name as well. Next one. So his home is, disappeared from the site. His home is called Divya Dham. If you are in that area in Bhubaneswar, you see the house where Divya Dham is written. This is where the king lives. Means divine abode. Next one. So, Divya Dham number 26. That's the exact address. Next one. And so, of course, he is not dressed as a king because he is at home. It's just for ceremonies. He puts up his crown and royal dress. But he's a really amazing personality. All through our talking with him, we were really impressed how much devotion and love he has for Lord Jagannath. And his only motivation or meditation, how do we spread Jagannath's glories? How do we make Jagannath known to the whole world? And this is what we've been discussing. And actually, he really likes ISKCON devotees because ISKCON devotees took Jagannath all over the world. Of course, Srila Prabhupada started that. And he tried very, very hard to get, temple management as one of his positions. He's like a temple president for Jagannath Mandir. And so he tried very hard to convince brahmanas, to convince local priests and pandas to change the rule and allow anyone to enter into Jagannath Puri. And even though some of the Brahmanas are favorable to that idea, but many of them were very resistant, and actually he couldn't do it because he cannot go. They have a system where the king cannot impose his will upon them, and so he failed. But it gave so much pain to his heart that he tried so hard and it didn't happen, that the very first thing he told us that, I will do anything you want, but please don't ask me to, let the devotees into the temple, because I tried and it's not possible, unfortunately. But we could see that, it was a very hard thing to him to admit. And he was like nearly crying because of that. But one interesting thing, that he might be the very last living descendant of, at least male descendant of King Prataparudra, because he has no male issue. He has no sons, only daughters. So we might be, seeing the very last male descendant of King Prataparudra. But yes, this tradition of devotion is family tradition, their family tradition. So we can read a little more, or if anyone has any questions or comments or suggestions, complaints. Yes, Prabhu.
Maharaj, I was just wondering that you said that the Mayavadi sannyasis are the first sannyasis that actually come on the cart, and then the king comes on. But common sense says that Mayavadis are impersonalists, they don't believe in a form. And here they are actually on the cart, which has a form of Lord Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra. So, it's a very big common sense here that you are Mayavadi, you don't believe, and here you are on the cart, believing in a personal form. Does that not contradict the principle of Mayavad and personalism, which is Vaishnavism? Because Vaishnava sannyasis and Mayavadi sannyasis, that's the biggest difference, that we are believing in a form which they don't believe, and yet they are coming on the cart to accept a form.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but actually Adi Shankaracharya, he was the one who established standards for worshipping Lord Jagannath. And even today, more than 1,000 years later, they still follow the same standards Adi Shankaracharya established. And it's really interesting in Jagannath Puri that there is a story how Ramanujacharya, he tried to change those standards because he was thinking, what is this nonsense? The founder of Mayavadi movement established standards for worshipping our Lord Jagannath. We should establish our Vaishnava standards. And because he was really powerful, he came to Jagannath Puri, and he actually put so much pressure on the priests that you should establish, you should change the standards. And the next day they were supposed to change the standards under the pressure of Ramanujacharya. And they couldn't do anything, so they went to Lord Jagannath and they started praying, our dear Lord, we're so used to the standards we were following, so we don't want to change the standards, but this Ramanujacharya is putting so much pressure on us, so could you please do something about it to protect us from him? And it was summertime, apparently very hot, indoor, and Ramanujacharya decided to take his rest outside, and so he put his bed, the kind of cot, they call it, the frame with, ropes across, and he was sleeping outside. And when he woke up and he was ready to, prepare himself to go to the temple and, finalize the deal to change the standards. But when he looked around, he couldn't recognize the scenery. It didn't look at all like Jagannath Puri. And then he got up and he saw that people are also look very different from Oriya. And then he was asking, what is this place? Where am I? And the people were saying, dear sir, you are in Kurmakshetra, in South India. And it's described that, Ramanujacharya saw the footprints of very big bird around his cot. And then he realized it was Garuda who, in the middle of the night took him together with the cot and moved him all the way to South India. And, at that time, they didn't have planes or trains or even cars. So if you wanted to move from one place to the other, you had to walk. And just imagine how long it is to walk all the way from South India to Jagannath Puri. So Ramanujacharya realized, okay, Lord Jagannath made Garuda to remove me from there because somehow he responded to the prayers of his pujaris. And it's very interesting that somehow those standards are still followed, established by Shankaracharya. And actually lately, those devotees who've been at the original Ratha Yatra at Puri, I'm wondering if any devotee have been to Jagannath Puri Ratha Yatra? Okay, couple of devotees been there. And you've seen that people are allowed not only to go up the cart, but also people are embracing deities. That's their tradition. Been a kind of tradition for many, many years. During Ratha Yatra, it's not allowed at any other time, but it was allowed during Ratha Yatra. But then the local Shankaracharya just last year, he raised an issue. He said, how come that you are allowing, for money's sake, why are you doing that? Because you want people to give you larger donations. And just for money's sake, you're allowing meat eaters, you're allowing drunkards, you're allowing smokers to come and embrace the deity. And can you imagine how much reaction you incur for that? So that should stop altogether. And he said, to set an example, no one is allowed to go up the cart anymore. And to show the example, I will not go up to the cart myself. And if I'm not going, and he's the boss, he's the main Brahmana in the place. He represents Adi Shankaracharya. If I'm not going, the king is not going and nobody is going. Everyone's getting darshan from the ground. So that's the rule now. And I think it's a good thing. So they might be Mayavadis, but somehow they understand the standards and they are very strict with standards. And so there is some use of them. And that's why, Lord Jagannath is allowing them to be in charge. So, Prabhu?
Yeah, I was going to say, on this issue of the Mayavadis and then worshiping Lord Jagannath, Prabhupada said that Mayavadis, they believe in the form, but they say the form is Maya.
Yes.
It's not eternal, it's temporary.
That's
so
right.
It's not a dichotomy. It's actually, they don't mind the form, but
Yeah.
that form is not eternal, full of bliss or full of knowledge. It's Maya.
Yes.
And that is why they're so demoniac.
That's right. Yes. So worshipping the deities is part of their practices, but they don't consider, developing personal relationship with the Lord the ultimate goal. They are, they want to merge with the Lord and become like the Lord as a result. So that's the difference. The process is exactly the same, but their goal is different. Yes, somebody else? Okay, Akashma Brahma.
Thank you, Maharaj. I just heard something kind of interesting the other day. I was just wondering if anyone knew anything about it. Somebody told me that there was like some reference in Shastra about how at some point Lord Jagannath would be removed from the temple and taken to some other part of the world. And so the pujaris there were afraid that this would happen, and so in order to protect Lord Jagannath from going elsewhere, they're really strict about letting foreigners go into the temple. Have you ever heard anything like that?
Yeah, I've heard that one. I haven't read it, so it's a kind of, one of those beliefs which go around that there is some kind of scripture where it is described that at some point Lord Jagannath will be taken out from the temple and will be worshipped somewhere else, and that this is one of the reasons why pujaris, they are so afraid of allowing foreigners to enter, because apparently it's predicted that the foreigners will take Jagannath away. And they don't realize that it already happened. That Jagannath is already all over the world. And so it's too late to cry now. Okay. Sachitana Prabhu.
Maharaj, in seeing the Lord, sometimes some devotees nowadays, in our generation, they rationalize that in seeing Lord Jagannath, that by hook or by crook, sometimes some of them, or you can say they're so eager to go and see that they disguise themselves and they go and see the Lord. And like you said before, what we know, it causes a lot of problems. But what would be the benefit? It's actually offensive, because since we are you code, Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Haridas Thakur, and at the same time, they know that, but they do it. So what will be your comment in that? Do they actually get the benefit?
Well, what I can recall is one pastime from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, wherein he was giving a class, and it was kind of long class, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati liked to speak in a very scientific terms, very kind of sophisticated language. And so there was a darshan time, and in Gaudiya Math they have like separate hall for holding class, and then adjoining hall for Diti Darshan. Those who've been in India, they've seen that structure. And so the arati started, and a couple of disciples, they went to attend the arati. And after the arati was over, they came back and sat to continue listening to the class. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati stopped the class, and he looked at them and he said, "So where did you go?" And they said, "Oh, Guru Maharaj, we went to see the deities. We went to get deities darshan." And he said, "So have you seen Krishna?" "No, you only seen stone. If you really want to see Krishna, you have to sit and listen." So it's like sometimes we have this idea of being very deserving, and as if we can break into the spiritual world, being such a great devotees. But it's not the right mood. And we can see that the greater the devotee is, the more humble he or she is, and the less one feels deserving. And it's kind of neophyte mentality to be demanding and feeling, entitled, being entitled to so many benefits. And but if we read the scripture or hear the scripture, then listen to Chaitanya Charitamrita, we will see the right mood and the right example of the real devotees, the best of all the devotees, that they're always very meek and humble. And that's why they're so great. Yes, Bhaktavatar Prabhu. Microphone? Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. Very nice, very ecstatic class.
Thank you.
Just to comment on what you said about the Mayavadi sannyasis not letting people on the cart anymore. When I was in Puri, there were some Gaudiya Math devotees were complaining about, so many people going on the cart because they said that even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wouldn't go on the cart. So he was actually, he's setting the example for all other Vaishnavas. So it's a good thing because it's following what Lord Chaitanya did.
Yes.
He never went on the cart.
Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, it was obviously done for the sake of money. Because, anyone who's been there knows how interested pandas are in donations. And so, for them, the more people go to the cart and when they embrace the Lord, okay, you get special mercy, give us nice donation. So, and yes, it is a good thing that it was stopped. Mataji, someone can please pass the microphone over. Yes, for us it's unimaginable. We cannot imagine ourselves go on the altar or on the cart and embrace the deities, right? Unless we are pujaris or something. We have to carry the Lord. Yes. Yeah, pujaris are the only ones who can do that, right? For the sake of service. Like carrying the Lord, they have to embrace the Lord, yes.
Govinda Dasi, my god sister, once dressed herself as an old woman and hunched over in such a way that she thought she could disguise herself and get into the temple, and she was caught at the doors and they beat her.
Wow.
She said she would never try it again because they actually hurt her.
Wow.
But so they do guard the temple. Also, I've heard that they're strict about Westerners not entering the temple because they don't want it to become a tourist attraction. They want to keep it as a place of worship, Jagannath Puri. I could see that, Taj Mahal, people go to India and they want to be a tourist everywhere rather than someone who's come to worship.
Yes, thank you. All right, so we'll finish here. Thank you all very much. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande.